Consider for a moment, if you love the common spider, are you scared? Maybe yes, maybe not. It is a fear quite common. They scare some, but for many they mean nothing, something you can pick up carefully and throw out the window or crush quickly underfoot. However, you have to admit that regardless of how they make you feel, they are strange in their monstrosity. Animals obey a set of rules, more or less established. 2 or 4 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, maybe a tail. Then there are insects, 6, they can fly, etc., etc., and spiders, 8 legs, motionless, as death. They stay still in place, waiting, watching, and then they slink away. They slink away quickly, on those 8 legs, always faster than you expect. And if you are not agile enough, you lose sight of them in the shadows. Then you are forced to accept the reality that now they lurk with you, somewhere in the room. They have fangs on the spiders, big enough. Even you can hear them. You can hear their fangs gnashing as they think about their next meal. They don't have ears. Their body is covered in fine bristles, sharp like blades that capture sounds and vibrations instead of traditional ears and those small eyes, yeah, but not as unrecognizable as a fly's, for example. No, a spider's eyes are familiar enough to be unsettling. You look into a spider's eyes and feel it stare back at you. It looks out of its 8 eyes looking at you. I cough softly, clearing my throat as discreetly as possible amidst the cloud of dust as the beam of my flashlight sweeps the walls of the passage. Sparky, I murmur in a voice barely louder than a whisper. Here, boy, whistle some long, low notes. I don't get answer. I flinch as I feel a tickle on my elbow, but the flashlight beam reveals exactly what I expected. Another spider web, or a strand of warm, sticky web. I brush it off in one swift motion and hastily roll up the sleeves of the tan army-issued shirt as a shiver runs down my spine. I wonder if anyone has noticed my absence from the base. I've only been away an hour or so, but it's possible I hadn't planned on going that far, and to top it off, I didn't tell anyone where I was going. My footsteps echo through the dark, dusty remains of the dry, disused sewer hallway. Sparky fell through the open sewer cover, the one I had to climb down to get here. I'm sure of it. I've seen him almost fall once before. And you know what I did? I laughed. His reaction was so hilariously human. I was able to avoid. I promised I would close the hole before he had a chance to trip again. But I forgot. I didn't consider it important. So I put it off for later, and now I'm paying the price. Or more precisely, Sparky is paying the price. He's a good dog. He doesn't deserve this, I call him again. Quietly in a whisper, laden with paranoia. There's something deeply disturbing about these tunnels, more than one would expect. The only thing that keeps me from running out the way I came is knowing that I probably wouldn't have the courage to go down. A second time, I wipe the sweat from my brow and advance deeper into the dusty sewer that lies beneath the deserted city. The tunnel branches off in 2 different directions. Here the cobwebs are thicker. I've never seen them in my life. So they stretch in long strands from wall to wall, from the ceiling to the pipes, glow dimly in the light of my flashlight. Sparky scream, daring us tense, and teeth clenched, as I walk through the strange webs they warned us about the creatures. Before the deployment, the desert scorpions, spiders, and other. But I didn't know spiders made webs that big. I never saw any on the surface. I thought those creatures lived in holes in the sand. They won't kill you. I keep saying, it's no worse than a wasp sting. Besides, down here there's nothing they can catch. Any spider will probably be dead. So stop worrying. You're okay. I'm fine. My ears pick up the sound of water dripping repeatedly on the metal pipes. It makes me thirsty, and I become more aware of the dryness in my mouth. I look around, but I don't see where the water is coming from, or any puddles. There's only dust, sand, and cobwebs. I go deeper into the air. It gets thicker and hotter. The sweat runs down my back, but I know Sparky is close. I can't leave him behind. Where are you, boy? I mutter, shuddering as the back of my hand touches another strand of web. I tear it off and wipe my hand against the KY. Further up the tunnel splits again to my right. There's a crack in the wall that gets lost in the shadows. And to my left, another one, although a little wider. Sparky, I call my voice, wavers, and then I hear him. It's him. Definitely a long series of moans and groans. My heart is pounding. He seems scared. I climb over a ridge of rock and step into the crevice, into the shadows. The room is filled with cobwebs, so thick I can't make out any of the walls. I have no idea how big this space could be. It's divided by clusters of pipes, some broken, others still intact, but all covered in dust and sand. And yet, despite the dryness, the sound of water dripping against metal is heard clearly. It's constant around me, though I can't see where it's coming from. Jesus, I mutter as I pull out my knife and cut the nearby strand, making my way and stepping into the room. My boot hits something hidden in the dust, a bunch of small bones that clatter loudly against the floor. I stop, tense for a moment. Everything goes silent. Then the dripping returns persistently, and I hear a bark coming from further up ahead. Sparky, I'm coming for you, boy. I hope the dog barks again. Maybe more excited, but he doesn't. He just whines. Sparky, okay, boy, I'm going, hold on. I push my way through a tangle of cobwebs blocking my path, and chilling vibrations that extend into the shadows as I move. The dripping speeds up. Little liquid smacks against the metal. It's maddening. I begin to wonder if the sound is real, or if it's all in my head. My flashlight flickers and I curse under my breath, tapping it lightly with the back of my hand. If this thing goes off, well, I don't like the idea of trying to get out of this place by groping my way out in complete darkness. I step over a line of pipes at knee height and raise the flashlight forward, and then I see him. I see my faithful dog barking at me and shaking his head. It's the only thing visible of him. Sparky is suspended in the air, leaning in an angle, strange, wrapped in a thick net. Translucent struggles against its bonds in the darkness, moaning now with greater desperation. I don't understand what I'm seeing. Despite the claustrophobia of the sticky and gloomy heat that surrounds me, an involuntary shiver runs through my body. A sick feeling of pure fear and cold invades me, as if ice water flowed at full speed through my veins. There is nothing on earth that can wrap a dog in a spider web. Not a big dog like Sparky. This is sick. What the hell is going on? Is some espèce de nightmare? I let out a clumsy, nervous laugh, not knowing how to react. But there is no surprise or mockery. No one appears from the shadows. The flashlight blinks calmly. Sparky, I'll get you out of here. I whisper. My voice can no longer rise, speaking in a normal tone. It feels dangerous, as if I provoke something with hands. Shakily, I use the knife to cut the ties that hold Sparky, moving as slowly as I can so as not to hurt him. It is a tedious process, but I do not want to hurt him in the end. I cut enough so that the threads begin to tighten and break on their own, and Sparky begins to kick, freeing himself slowly, until he falls to the ground. I hold him and help him to free himself completely, although he takes with him some strands of his fur. Poor thing, already on the ground. Sparky presses against my leg with force, and as if something inside him also broke free, he begins to growl. I hear it from the depths of his throat. His fur bristles as he fixes his gaze to my right. He barks once loud and sharp. I turn my head in the direction he points with his heart, beating forcefully, and I project the flashlight beyond the pipes into the darkness loaded with dust. And then my breathing. He stops. There is a man, a shadowy figure in the shadows, leaning against a group of vertical pipes. He wears a military uniform, wrinkled and covered in dust, with his back to me. I don't recognize the shape of his head or the back of his neck. He doesn't look like someone from my barracks, but at least he looks American. Judging by the combat uniform, I take a step back. Sparky is still glued to me. I can feel his tension through my leg. "Hi," I say, my voice barely a mumble, then louder. "Hey, buddy, what the heck are you doing here? Are you okay?" The man doesn't respond. He barely moves his wrist a little, but his posture remains motionless, rigid. My heart beats hard. The dripping of water persists, and then I hear a sound I hadn't noticed before, but now staring at him I can't ignore. It's low muffled, as if something were tearing his hand. Twitches again. The light of the flashlight illuminates his skin, that shines in a strange way, sickly, while shadows projected by the cobwebs envelop him. I want to scream at him again, but the words get stuck in my throat. Suddenly his hand shudders for the third time, and then to my horror, it comes loose from his shoulder with a tearing sound, accompanied by the tearing of fabric and the cracking of fine threads of grayish flesh. The hand falls to the ground with a dry thud, raising a small cloud of sandy dust, whose particles shine under the beam of the flashlight. And then something moves, starts to crawl from the hollow of his arm. Two long, sharp, black legs, then a third, and then a fourth leg. I realize with horror that the man's body is attached to the ceiling by several long spiderweb vines that extend from his shoulders. This new imbalance in his weight makes him slowly spin around his head. Tilting unnaturally, he approaches the light of my flashlight. His face has disappeared, as has much of the front of his head. Empty, a cavern of open flesh. I don't realize that Sparky has started barking until his barking fills the space. Music, a desperate sound like I've never heard before. I can't breathe. My eyes remain open, fixed. I don't blink. I take a step back. With shaking legs, the dripping increases, multiplying by 10. It sounds like heavy rain. Sharp drops hitting the metal pipes. Except it's not rain. It's not even water. I raise the beam of the flashlight to the ceiling. I can't tell how high it reaches here. The layers of cobwebs are too thick, forming an impenetrable veil, but the pipes are visible. And the truth behind the sounds is revealed when I look closely. They are the legs, 100 sharp legs hitting the pipes as their owners move from one side to the other. I can't see them clearly. There are too many. The cobwebs and shadows hide them, but I know what they are. They are spiders, a swarm over me. Some as big as cats and others, to my absolute horror, much bigger. Something colossal moves in the depths of the darkness, slow but imposing, gigantic. I run Sparky with me. I scream, but there is no need. The dog doesn't leave me, even when I stumble over the pipes that run knee-high, even as I crash to the floor and lose the knife in the shadows. Sparky is still with me. I cough and try to shake the dust out of my eyes as I stumble through the darkness, through the crack in the wall, with that sound of paws kicking harder and harder all around me. I feel something brush against the back of my neck. Something getting tangled in my hair. I swear something is scratching at my feet. But it doesn't. I stop. I run through the tunnel as fast as I can, my boots hitting hard on the floor. As I reach the broken ladder, I channel all the strength the army has instilled in me, day after day, with a grunt of effort. I lift Sparky over my head into the light. The dog thrashes a little, flailing his paws, but seems to understand where he needs to go. With one last push, I lift him up until he goes through the mouth of the manhole. Open their barking echoes on the surface, loud and desperate, over and over again. I can feel them. The spiders are on my legs. I can hear them behind me moving through the tunnel. The sound of their fangs gnashing chases me. But I don't look down, and I don't look back. If I do, I'm done. I just push myself up, step by step, until finally I'm through the open hole and find myself back in the dusty red light of the Iraqi sunset. I fill my lungs with a gasoline breath, but it's the best feeling in the world. Next to me, against the wall of a nearby building, is a can of gasoline. I grab it with shaking hands. I open it and begin to pour the contents into the darkness of the hole. As I do, I see shapes that writhe and move beneath the surface. The clicking of legs fast, and the hissing of fangs reaches my ears. Some of my companions have heard the sound of Sparky, and they approach quickly. "Hey, boy," I hear them, calling the dog. Their voices, full of relief, they shout to me. What is going on? But I don't answer. I can't. My hands work frantically. I light the lighter and throw it into the abyss. The small flame dances for a second in the shadows before exploding in an explosion of orange fire. A heat burst shoots up from the manhole, forcing me to step back. I crouch behind a nearby concrete slab, grunting as I push it with all my strength to cover the hole. What the hell is going on? Someone screams, but I ignore it. I don't stop my work until the hole is completely covered, and I have moved at least 3 meters away. I collapse against a nearby wall, breathing hard difficulty, while the others look at me, confused. Sparky, however, curls up in my lap, shaking. But I live that night when I return Sparky to the barracks. I was greeted with smiles and words of relief. Everyone was happy to see him return safe and sound. Their reactions helped me fight the nausea, disgust, and latent fear of what I had found down there in that dark place that now seemed so close and threatening. But I know it did not destroy them all. There is no way about the fuel and the fire. No, it was enough. I will report to command in the morning. I will tell them about the soldier, but I am sure of one thing. I will never go down there again. No one can force me that night. I discovered something else as I got ready for sleep at first. I didn't notice it. I was too busy watching the ceiling, the shadows in the corners. My mind kept anticipating that something could appear at any moment, scurrying towards me or crawling across the floor, and then I saw my boots were covered in sand and rock dust. As expected, they will have to be cleaned thoroughly before tomorrow's inspection, I thought. But there was something else, something crushed in the soul. It wasn't entirely clear what it was, but to me, it looked like broken eggs, splattered whole clusters of open eggs, and I can't help but wonder, were they broken before I stepped on them?